to start off, the supplies that you're gonna need, I'm gonna be using a 7mm crochet hook. I sized up because I want my sweater to be kind of like airy and not too thick and dense. I'm gonna be using 2 colors of acrylic yarn. So this, I believe, is just Red Heart, weight 4, and some stitch markers. So to start, I'm going to start with a slip knot. And I'm gonna be chaining, I'm not sure how much yet, but basically you wanna measure around your head and see how wide. I basically measured that I wanted my neck hole to be approximately 24.5 inches long. So I'm just gonna chain, and then I will measure. Okay, so right now I have 68 chains, and for my first row, I'm just going to be doing double crochets to start this off. After your 68 rows, or however long you determine that your opening is, we're gonna be joining this chain. Make sure that it's straight when you do your join, because obviously that is super important. So we're just gonna join with a slip stitch. Okay, now we're gonna be doing double crochets all the way around. So your first one, we're gonna do chain 2, which is going to count as a double crochet, and then we're going to start working into the top loop here of your next. Oops. Like I said, this first row is always the most challenging. So I don't know how well you can see, but I am working into these top loops here, so right there, of my chains. So you're gonna be doing this all the way around, and I will meet you at the end here to show you how to slip stitch into your first stitch. Once you get to the end here, you obviously want to make sure that this does fit over your head. So test it out, make sure it fits. If it does, we're just gonna go and slip stitch into the top of our row here. So this is the first row, and it's super important that when you're working this sweater, every row you turn your work. A lot of beginners don't turn their work and they just keep working in the same direction, and you're gonna end up with a weird like back seam if you do that. So now that we're here, we're gonna turn and we're gonna work the other way now. So going around this way. Sorry, I mean, we're going the same way. So we're going to the left, but we turned our work around. So you wanna make sure that you're doing this every single time you change rows. So now that, I'm just gonna pull this up. Now that we have our first row done, you're gonna wanna take your neck piece and measure approximately 2 inches. make sure your seam is centered. So the seam in the back, make sure it's roughly centered. And we're gonna measure 2 inches here and place our first stitch marker. So right here. So if we count, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're gonna wanna count the same amount of stitches on the back. So as you can see here, the front and the back stitch markers are aligned. So for me, I calculated 6 stitches on each side. So you're gonna do the exact same thing for the other side here. So, all right, so now that you have those 4 stitch markers in, we are going to change colors. So I'm gonna be doing, using a sort of burnt orange color for my next row. Okay, so since we were working with our top like this, I'm gonna be turning it and going this way now. So, I'm just gonna attach my yarn here. I like to attach my yarn with a knot. I know that you can technically just do a slip knot. I just am OCD about things being secured or not, so I like to attach it. All right, so we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, chain 3, and in the next row, we're gonna be doing treble crochets, okay? So treble crochets are a little bit different than a double crochet. A double crochet, you were just doing your yarn over once and inserting. For a treble, we're gonna yarn over 2 times. Insert my yarn into the chain, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So it creates a very high stitch and actually saves you a lot of time because you just added like roughly 1 inch to your sweater already. So we're gonna do this all the way up to the stitch marker, yarn over 2 times. So once you get to where your stitch marker was, we're gonna be doing 2 treble crochets, but separated by a chain. So 1, we're gonna do chain 1, and then we're gonna do a second treble crochet in that first same stitch. So as you can see here, our increase has 2 treble crochets with a chain between them. So now you're gonna keep going all the way around your work and doing this same increase only where your stitch markers are. All the other chains are just gonna be normal 1 treble crochet like you were doing here. All right, so I've made it all the way around, and I will slip stitch into the top of that chain. All right, so now that we have 2 rows, I personally am gonna go and reinsert my markers where I was doing my increase, so I can see here that there are 2 treble crochets. All right, so we're gonna turn our work. And chain 3. You're basically gonna be doing exactly the same thing all the way around, and I will show you what to do once we get to the first stitch marker for this row. When you get to where your increase is, we're gonna start by doing 1 regular treble on top of this treble here. And next, what we're gonna do where our stitch marker is that we're gonna be inserting our 2 trebles in this chain space, and I'm gonna just be working directly in the actual space here. So 1, then chain 1, then we're gonna put our second one. So as you can see here, you have your 2 treble crochets that are in that gap. After this, you're just gonna keep going all the way around until you reach your other increase areas and repeat the same increase steps that I just did. And that's about it. So I will be doing this entire row, and I will meet you back after this row. Now that we're done that row, I'm gonna go ahead and again move over my decrease stitch marker, sorry, my increase stitch markers. Now, as you can see, it's starting to turn, which is exactly what we want. This is like the neck raglan kind of neck sweater starting to form. Now at this point, you can choose to keep going with treble crochets if you want. I am gonna mix it up and do a row of double crochets, just like my first row, just because I kind of want like a different, I don't know, I just want it to look a little bit staggered sort of. So I will show you how to do the increases with double crochets. It's essentially the same, but we'll do one together. So I've attached my yarn and I'm gonna chain 2. And then I'm gonna be doing double crochets for this row, like I said. Again, this is completely optional, but I think it will look a little bit different if I do it this way, so you're just gonna keep doing double crochets up to your increase stitch marker. Okay, so in this spot right here where the stitch marker is, it's sort of the same thing as the row that we did above. So I'm gonna do, oops, sorry, 1 double crochet into this chain space. Then I'm going to chain 1 and I'm gonna do another double crochet. And then I'm still gonna be doing a double crochet on top of the treble crochet as well. All right, so it looks like this here. So it's very similar to what we were doing below, just with a double crochet. So now you're gonna go all the way around, and you are simply going to repeat the next 2 rows exactly like we did these 2 orange rows here. and I will check in after that and see how long our sweater is at that point. I ended up doing a total of 6 of the rows of the treble crochets with 2 rows of the double crochets between. So at this point, you just want to make sure that when you put it on, this seam here is sort of below like your underarm, and that you can visualize it really like if you were to make a sleeve here, it's long enough. This should be long enough unless you want like a very low underarm. So I went ahead and replaced my stitch markers in all 4 places where I had my increases. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to chain and go create a chain below my underarm. So I went ahead and attached my yarn. And I think I'm gonna chain 10 and see. All right, so then what you're gonna do is you're gonna come connect your chain with a slip stitch here. So after this, try on your sweater, put your arms through here, and make sure that you feel comfortable with that width of sleeve. So I will do that and I will be right back. Okay, so for me, I determined that 10 chains was a good width for my sleeve. So let me just reinsert my hook. Oh, she is broken. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna take these off because I do not need them anymore. And now what you're gonna do to start your sleeve is that I intentionally ended my top piece knowing that my next row would be a double crochet, because I just want that first row of my sleeve to be a little bit easier. So what we're gonna do here is chain 2, and then you're going to double crochet all the way around the sleeve in your chains, and I'll show you when we get to the beginning of that new chain that we just created what we're gonna do. Now that I went all the way around my sleeve and back to where my chain was here, so you're just gonna continue and do double crochets into the top loops of your chain that you just made. Okay, so when you reach the end here, you're simply going to do a slip stitch into that first double crochet. So there you have the first row of your sleeve. So now you're simply going to be continuing all the way down, alternating your rows. So we're gonna be doing exactly the same thing as the body, but for your sleeve. So I will work on that. And the last step will be to, obviously once you've done both sleeves, will be to continue the body. All right, so now that I am done both sleeves, I ended up doing, let me just count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I repeated my 2 rows of treble crochet 6 times, and I repeated the row in the middle of double crochet. The only thing I did differently is at the end of my sleeve, I did 2 rows of double crochet. So now that I have both sleeves done, I will be working on the body. So For the body, I went ahead and I attached my yarn at the back. So working with the back of the sweater facing me, I'm going to be continuing the pattern here. So I'm going to start off with a row of double crochet all the way around, and I'll show you how I join this kind of little sleeve section here. So I'll just start off by doing chain 2 and then double crochet all the way around. And I'll meet you at the corner here to show you how I'm gonna make this little check here work. So I continued my double crochet all the way down the row, and now I'm at the sort of junction like with the sleeve. So you're just gonna keep doing your double crochet, working in the other loop of that chain that we had used to do this row here. So just have to find the chain, so right there. It might be a little bit tricky, but since it's on the underarm, if it's not super perfect, you won't really be able to tell that much. So you're just gonna go all the way around. And when you get to the back here, you're just gonna continue your row into the chains of your orange piece. So let me just show you guys how it looks. All right, so as you can tell here, I put it back this way. This is the beginning of your body piece. It might look a little bit curved still, but you'll see once you do a few more rows, it'll start to kind of like straighten out and shape that tube piece for your body. So now you literally just keep going like you did the sleeves. So you're gonna alternate with rows of treble and double crochet with your colors. And you can always like try it on midway and see how wide it is. If you want to, you can reduce or increase. And yeah, that's basically it. And I will show you when it is all done. All right, so here's the final result. So I just want to say that I ended up doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I repeated my 2 rows of treble 4 times, and at the end here I just did 2 rows of double crochet, and then all of these beige ones are also double crochet, and that's about it.